Hello and welcome to a conversation that we're going to have today about the new ServiceNow release. This ServiceNow release is called Utah. And if you're not familiar with how ServiceNow works, one of the things that's really interesting about the platform is that there's a new release every 6 months. And who better to have talk about this than today's guest, Andras Nagy, who is an engineer out of GuideVision's Hungary office. András, what is your position?
I'm a principal ServiceNow consultant in GuideVision.
Okay, so you really are the right guy to talk to about what's coming up in Utah.
I sure hope so.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for coming today, and thanks for explaining a little bit about what's coming in the release. And generally, let's start with something that would make end users happy. What are some of the things that are coming in Utah for end users?
Well, there's quite a lot. Obviously, what will strike them first is some changes to the Next Experience UI. Most notably, it's something to do with the favorites and with the navigation. So for one, you can now group your favorites, which is really, really handy for people, for example, like me, who have a lot of favorites and use the system that way. And this is going to be a huge help for them. Also, they are addressing an issue which has been quite a complaint from in the Tokyo version, and that is that now if you are searching, then the search is combined between your favorites and the normal navigation menu. So you don't need to be switching back and forth between the two of them, which is also going to be a huge help. Apart from that, another new feature in Utah is the dark theme for Next Experience. It has started a bit in Tokyo already, but that it was very limited. But now it includes dashboards, lists, and so on. So if you prefer using your applications in the dark theme, then Utah is your version.
Excellent. So when we say dark theme, it's like night mode on your phone or whatever, right? That after a certain time, it switches colors into something a little less grating.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And the UI means like the user interface, the way that the layout of the screen is arranged. I just want to make sure we're using a non-technical terms for people who may not be up to speed on the jargon. But what else is in the release? What are you looking forward to?
Well, there's quite a lot else in the new release. So also, we're still talking about the end users. The focus is now shifting more towards configurable workspaces, which has been a trend for quite some time now. So in itself, it's nothing new. We have some new workspaces, some older workspaces are being prepared for deprecation, which means that you can still use them, but in a few releases they will be deprecated and you need to move to a new one. For example, with CSM workspace, with ITSM workspace. So it's good to prepare for it. It's good to get used to the CSM configurable workspace, for example, if you are using customer service management. Okay. So configurable workspaces, as I said, there's a trend that we are moving towards using them and preferring them. For example, one benefit is the sidebar, which allows you to communicate during resolving a case with your other coworkers, with the end users as well, and so on. And one thing that is new in Utah and is very, very useful is the integration of MS Teams into sidebar. So an agent using the workspace can chat live with an end user who is using MS Teams.
That's really nice, actually. And that wasn't there before.
No, it was not. The sidebar was already existing, but the integration to MS Teams is a new thing.
Okay.
Also, if you're talking about workspaces, dynamic translation is now enabled. This feature does, as the name says, it's a dynamic translation, so it translates work notes, for example, from one language to the language of the user who is viewing the ticket at the moment.
Interesting.
It's now enabled in Workspace as well. It was not before, only in old views.
So how does that work? Is that for knowledge-based articles or for other types of content?
No, this is for other types of content, mostly on tickets. It's used mostly on tickets, for example, as I mentioned, with work notes and some fields. Well, you need to have, of course, a subscription to some translation service that you buy from IBM or Google, for example, or Microsoft, for that matter. And then when you open the ticket, then those pieces of text are sent to this translation service, and they will return the result in your language.
Wonderful. That's got to make it a lot easier for both the end user and for the person providing the support.
Exactly. It's a very neat feature in multi-language situations, which is the case actually for most of our customers.
Excellent. Now, from your perspective as an integrator and as an expert on the platform, what are you looking forward to?
Well, for the integrators, a nice new possibility is now the Apache Kafka integration, which is, well, it's a near real-time event distribution system. It is already used within ServiceNow as well for purposes like instance data replication or log export, but we also have a integration app connector now that we can use Apache Kafka services for. So more and more corporations are using it, spreading really quickly, and now we can integrate with that as well, if we are talking about integrations and as such. Also a nice new feature is that now we can import CSV files, so not just Excel and so on, but CSV files with comma-separated values, which is a common export format. So now we can import that as well into ServiceNow.
We were talking about that with Pavel Miller about the Snow Mirror release. That's also going to be really useful for people that are storing things in CSV in the cloud, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And so yeah, we can import CSV file.
Okay, great. What else can we look forward to in Utah?
Well, since we're talking still about the end users,
okay. Well, I guess sorry about that.
There's a lot of features for them as well, not just geeks like me. So
okay, what else can we look forward to for the end user?
We have so-called proactive prompts and proactive triggers in Utah, which are really interesting. Proactive triggers are small messages that we can send on the service portal. We can send them through virtual agent to help case deflection. So I'll give you an example. An employee is looking at a knowledge article about how to set up their VPN, and now we can just send them a message through virtual agent saying, "Hi, do you want me to help you set up VPN?" And then they can take it up with virtual agent. This will make it easier for them as well, and also it will help with case deflection, so also reduce the workload of the agents.
Right. So if I understand correctly, then there would be a live session, quote unquote live, right, where the support desk employee is there talking with the end user, and then asks the end user to then if they want to start the virtual agent.
No, that's the neat thing about it. That it's that the virtual agent is basically a chatbot. So what will happen is this: our chatbot sends them a message, and our chatbot approaches them, saying, "Hi, do you want me to help with you?" And then they can engage in a conversation, which was previously set up conversation, so-called conversation topic in virtual agent, which will guide them through this. They just need to answer some simple questions, and then all our automation will kick in, and it will set up whatever needs to be set up.
Well, that's really nice. I'm looking forward to seeing that in action.
Well, you just need to upgrade to Utah, set it up, and you can test it.
Okay. Were there any other end user things that you wanted to mention?
Well, on the one hand, we have something very similar, which is called proactive prompts, which is not triggered by an event. Instead, it is scheduled, and it is basically some actionable notifications that we can show on the either the service portal or in virtual agent, and through virtual agent in connected communications channels such as Slack or Teams, which are small bite-sized prompts notifying either a manager or a user about something that requires their attention. So one example could be a manager who needs to approve some vacation requests. And when they log in and they open the portal, then they will see, hi, you have these many unapproved vacation requests. Please look at them now. And these can be made actionable. So with a click of a button, they can just approve it. So it's quick, efficient, and it helps you not forget about things, which is something that would be very handy for me because I really easily forget about things that I need to do. So this will be a godsend for me.
Definitely. Even on the way to record this recording today, I left my computer at home, had to come back and get it. But that's an example of how I forget things. Are there other end user things that you're looking for in Utah?
Well, on the mobile app, we also have some new parts, but it is my understanding that we will have a separate recording about that. So
Exactly.
I do not want to steal the spotlight from my coworkers.
Okay.
But just to mention, the mobile app is also getting some new nice features.
Excellent. Yeah, there's a lot of location-based functionality, if I understand correctly. But okay, on the implementer and developer side, what are some of the things that we can look forward to in addition to the integration hub?
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing where there's a lot of new and exciting new features is the flow designer. One very useful thing is the flow priority. Now we can set the priority of the flows because earlier, before Utah, basically it was on a first come first serve basis. But of course there are some flows, there are some processes which need to be done really quickly and which have priority. And now you can set these priorities, and then a process with a higher priority will have the ability to pause the execution of flows with lower priorities. So this will be very useful for some critical processes and critical flows. Also, to make the lives of developers easier, now we can, in a flow designer, we can convert actions into a subflow. So imagine that you are putting together some complex flow where you have some part of the flow which you have already configured in that flow, and then it turns out that there's actually something similar which needs the same steps. And previously you had to create a subflow, put it all together again and save it as a subflow, but you can now just select some actions from your flow and convert them into a subflow. So you don't need to duplicate your work.
Oh, that's really nice. Definitely. I can see that speeding up work for a lot of developers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and we're now also helping to avoid problems with editing actions, because a lot of times actions are, of course, usually reused, so they are used in several flows. And previously, if you were editing an action, then you were never certain what kind of trouble you are bringing on yourself as regard to other flows which are already using it. And now you can easily list which flows are using your action. Well, for implementers in the App Engine table builder, we can now create new tables by importing files, for example, Excel. But these new tables can now extend other tables, which is very helpful if you are importing, for example, a new class into your CMDB, because they obviously almost always extend or some already existing table. And now you can do that easily. You don't need to create the table first and then import the data into it. And you can, of course, and the system will also help you map your input fields to the fields in your table automatically. So that is really neat. We have a new schema view in the table builder, which can help you explore relationships between your table and tables which your table is referencing, so other external tables, and see which fields are referencing which tables. So that is a nice feature for the implementers. And something which I'm really excited about is, but that's mostly the geek in me.
Let's hear it.
Is the robot process automation, which we already had previously, of course, but now you can also use it on PDIs. So you can just get yourself, PDI is a personal developer instance. So you can just request a personal developer instance with no charge, free of charge. And you can now request robots, one attended and one unattended robot from your PDI as well. So you can just start playing around with robots. You don't need to get access to some instance which also has this RPA hub enabled. You can just play around with it on your own. And learn its capabilities, learn what it can do. I think it will largely increase the adoption rate of RPA.
Have you been playing with RPA yourself?
Just briefly, but yes, I have. But once I will have time, which means when I retire in 30 some years, then
I will be sure to play around with it some more.
But we have other news also in RPA, so not just for geeks playing around. We have Universal Recorder and Universal App Connector, which will also speed up the development of new integrations and new processes within RPA.
Excellent. Man, that sounds really, really interesting. I mean, the whole idea of being able to explore the robots and the robotic functionality on your own time, or on your own instance, just seems like a no-brainer. But it really, I could really see how that would be a popular thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will be.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention about the Utah release and what we're looking forward to here?
Well, for the technical people, and this goes for other topics as well, or on other audiences as well. So now we are, of course, just showing a very narrow selection so this is just a very narrow highlight. So I encourage everyone to ask your ServiceNow implementation provider, or just go to the release notes yourself, dive in, look what there is, because everyone has different needs, every organization has different problems, and there's a lot of new updates, a lot of new features, a lot of just simple enhancements, and even a simple enhancement which might seem like nothing really special for someone else, if it hits your sweet spot, then it can be a real game changer in your application, if it's resolving an issue that you had been having a problem with for a year. So there's quite a lot for developers as well. What I would also mention is the possibility to configure optional activities in the process automation designer, which can help make it a bit more tidy when the agents are performing these playbooks.
Andras and Nagy, thank you so much for taking the time to explain this stuff to us. You would recommend then, if you wanted to find out some more information, to go check out the release notes of the Utah release. Is there any other favorite resource that you like to go to?
Well, on the partner portal, you can also get nice presentations and decks about what's new in Utah. On the learning portal, we will have available trainings, these so-called data trainings, which are very useful for specific areas. So I would recommend all these. There's quite a lot of sources actually. There are podcasts about it. There are nice recordings describing new possibilities in Utah.
Excellent. Thank you for all of this explanation, and we'll see you in Utah.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and see you in Utah.